Hello and welcome to another episode of Sermon Braindump. My name is Scott Dalen, an ELCA pastor in Southwest Iowa, and I present these videos every week for a couple of different reasons. The first of which is to take my brain out of more background work over the course of the week and move into the process of actually writing and prepping the sermon that I will preach in my congregation for the weekend. That's the first. And the second is just to allow you, the viewer, who have graciously given of your time to come by and watch this random ramblings of this random pastor, to allow you to gain some different insight into the assigned text for the week. So that is why I do these. As always, if you are a regular viewer, I want to thank you for your time. I know sometimes these get a little lengthy, but I do appreciate you giving your time to just kind of check these out. This Sunday, which is September 15th, 2019, the 14th Sunday after Pentecost, our gospel lesson is coming out of Luke chapter 15, verses 1 through 10. Now, if you happen to catch last week's video, I referenced what we'll be looking at today. This is two of the three parables that Jesus proclaims, kind of known as the lost parables. We've got the parable of the lost sheep and the parable of the lost coin. And then the third one, which is not featured in today's reading, is the parable commonly known as the prodigal son, probably the best known of the three and arguably one of the best known parables within the Gospels. But this time around, it is just the two of them that are being featured. Now, with where we have left off last time around, Jesus is getting criticized yet again for the fact that he spends time with tax collectors and sinners, and the powers that be tend to grumble about that, and they kind of fit and stew, and they don't like it. And he had told a couple of oddball parables that we had last week, or we heard about the parable of the guy who's trying to build a tower, and the parable of the king who's trying to figure out if he's got enough resources to go out into battle. That was a troublesome passage, and in trying to dig my way through that one, I bumped ahead and I referenced the three parables, two of which are for today, and the prodigal as well, as a way to remind us that the gospel tells us that we have a God who will seek us even when we are lost or might consider ourselves a lost cause. So that's kind of a connection that we had with last week's. With that in mind, I've kind of already, at least for my congregation, already referenced this. I did in the sermon that I preached last week to kind of bring things full circle, but we're going to explore it again. So again, Luke chapter 15, verses 1 through 10. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus, and the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling, or better yet, murmuring is a better translation there, and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So he told them this parable: "Which one of you, having 100 sheep and losing one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one that was lost until he finds it? When he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders and rejoices. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, 'Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost.' Just so, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who need no repentance. Or what woman, having 10 silver coins, if she loses one of them, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it? When she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, 'Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I have lost.' Just so, I tell you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents." All right, so that's the readings, the two things there. So one quick thing to reference at the end of chapter 14, the very last thing that Jesus says is, "Let those with ears to hear listen." And then we hear right away, the tax collectors and sinners are coming near to listen to him. So that's an interesting little connection that we think about. Who is it that is hearing Jesus as he's teaching, as he's proclaiming the kingdom, as he's proclaiming this new way of being, this new way of living, the way that honors the relationship with God, and that honors the relationship with the neighbors and creates harmony. This new way of living that is a threat to the status quo, that is a threat to the powers that be. Who is it that's listening to him? And it seems to be the ones who know that they are lost. Now, there's a real big similarity here with the parable that Jesus will also tell in a couple more chapters of the Pharisee and the tax collector. And in that, he's really speaking into the idea of self-justification. the Pharisee in this parable, this fictional Pharisee, is praying, and basically he is the focus of everything. And then he compares himself to others. At least I'm not like this tax collector. But the tax collector knows that he is a sinner, and comes to Jesus in a way that reflects that. And we've got a similar situation here. Is that the tax collectors and the sinners, the ones who know that maybe that they are the one who is lost, and they're coming to the one, or they're being found by the one, or they're open to being found by the one who is able to search for them, who will search diligently and find what is lost. That seems to be the thing that's going on in these parables. We got these two examples of something of value that is lost. For the guy who owns the flock, one of his sheep is lost, and he goes finding it. Now, why is it lost? Well, maybe the sheep wandered off, because sheep do that. Maybe the sheep got caught or had fallen down like into a hole or something and was unable to follow when they went. Maybe, I mean, who knows? But either way, he recognizes that something of value was lost, and he goes and he searches diligently until the lost is found. And when it is found, he brings it back, and that's worth celebrating. He calls together his friends and neighbors. What was lost is now found. Come and celebrate my joy. And then the woman with the lost coin, same deal. Something of value, literally money, literal value, or monetary value, I should say, is lost, and she grabs the lamp and she searches diligently until it's found. And when it is, again, same deal. She calls together her friends and neighbors, throws a party. What was lost is now found. Come join in my delight. And then we hear in both times that there is rejoicing in heaven, or there's a party in heaven over every sinner who repents, or every sinner who is lost. And I love it that there's joy in the presence of the angels, that Jesus says. So this seems to be, in a lot of ways, referencing the idea that when the lost are found, however that works, and that's a wide variety of interpretations depending on your understanding. Denominations take different stances on this. Individuals take different stances on this. But when the lost is found, whatever that means, and there is joy in heaven, and there should be joy on earth too, the celebration. And Jesus was criticized so often for the time that he spent with the sinful folk, with the excluded, with the ones who are unworthy. And oftentimes it's over food. And think about how food is a celebration. Breaking bread together is a celebration, and it's worth celebrating when the lost are found. That's really the thrust here. Now, I've got a couple of questions that have come up in my mind, and things that I really kind of want to think about. One is in terms of the narration of what keeps us from hearing Jesus. That's a question that's kind of rattling around in the back of my mind. So we hear that the tax collectors and sinners are listening, but the elite are the ones who are not, for whatever reason. So what keeps us from hearing? That's one question. And the bigger question, the one that I'm really kind of rolling around in my mind as I'm thinking about this sermon, is what does it mean to be lost? In the case of the sheep, wandered off or had gotten stuck or whatever, was unable to follow for whatever reason. That seems to be kind of a well, that's a living thing. And we've got the coin. The coin's the coin is not intelligent. It's not alive. It's not aware. It's just lost. So who lost it? Well, the woman lost it. And likewise, did the man who owned the flock, did he lose it? Did it get lost on its own? We don't know. But there's a lot of different ways to be lost. And I'm thinking about that in terms of the different people in my congregation, or the different people that I work with. That what does it mean to be lost? We're lost within our own brokenness. We're lost within the way that manifests in our relationships. We can be physically lost. We can be lost to addiction. We can be lost to within mental illness. We can be lost. You can be lost a lot of ways. Maybe that we're aware of, we're self-aware, and maybe that we're not. Maybe others are aware of that for us or on our behalf, or that they are lost to us for whatever reason. And So that's kind of the real big question that I'm dancing around with here. When we put flesh on the interpretation of this text, something we call incarnational. What does that look like? What does that look like in our day-to-day lives to be lost, not just lost to the gospel, not just lost to God, but lost to one another in that regard. So if you have thoughts, questions, comments, you want to throw them down in the comment section. We'll continue the conversation that way. Otherwise, I hope you have a blessed week. And as always, if you appreciate these videos and would like to support the ministry that allows me to do them, I will put the link to my congregation's website down in the comments. You can follow the links and support us financially. No pressure to do that if you don't want to, but if you do, thank you, and it would be a blessing if you did. So have a great week, everybody. We'll catch you next time.